Billionaire helped the black waitress escape her ex, then found out she was his childhood friend. What if the person who saved your life turned out to be someone you'd been searching for your whole life? Jade wiped down the last table at Murphy's Diner, her hands shaking not from exhaustion but from fear. The bruise on her wrist was still fresh, and every time the bell above the door chimed, her heart jumped. She'd been hiding in this small Texas town for 3 weeks now, serving coffee and keeping her head down, but she knew he'd find her eventually. He always did. The 34-year-old waitress had run out of places to go, out of people to trust, and almost out of hope. But sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, wearing a $1,000 suit and carrying memories you thought were lost forever. As Jade looked up at the stranger who'd just walked through that door, she had no idea her life was about to change in ways she never imagined possible. "Where are you watching from tonight?" The man who entered Murphy's Diner didn't belong there, and everyone knew it. His tailored charcoal suit and confident stride screamed money in a place where most folks counted quarters for coffee refills. Jade watched him choose the corner booth, the same one she'd been eyeing as her escape route all evening. She grabbed the coffee pot with trembling fingers, steeling herself for another interaction with a stranger. "Evening," she said softly, setting down a chipped ceramic mug. "Coffee." When he looked up, something flickered in his deep brown eyes. "Please." His voice was warm, not demanding like she'd expected. "And whatever pie you'd recommend." Jade found herself studying his face. There was something familiar about the way he tilted his head, something that tugged at memories she couldn't quite reach. "Apples fresh," she managed, then hurried back to the kitchen before her curiosity got the better of her. The diner's owner, Mrs. Patterson, was counting the till. "That's quite a fancy customer out there," she whispered. "Drives a car worth more than my house, I'd bet." Through the kitchen window, Jade watched him pull out his phone, his brow furrowed in concentration. She'd gotten good at reading people's moods, survival had taught her that. But this man seemed different. When their eyes met through the glass, he didn't look through her like most wealthy customers did. He saw her. "Here's your pie," Jade said, setting down the generous slice. Her sleeve rode up slightly, revealing the purple fingerprints on her wrist. The man's expression darkened. "That looks painful." Jade quickly pulled her sleeve down. "Kitchen accident." The lie came automatically now. "I see." He didn't push, but something in his tone suggested he understood more than he was letting on. "I'm Connor, by the way. Connor Mitchell." The name hit her like lightning. Mitchell. Connor Mitchell. The little boy with scraped knees who'd shared his lunch with her when her foster mom forgot to pack one. The kid who'd promised they'd always be friends, right before the social workers moved her to another home. Excuse me," she stammered, backing away from the table. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. But before she could retreat to the safety of the kitchen, the diner's bell chimed again. Jade's blood turned to ice. Standing in the doorway, scanning the room with predatory eyes, was Derek. Her ex-boyfriend. The reason she'd been running for months. "There you are, baby," Derek's voice carried across the quiet diner, sickeningly sweet but with an edge that made Jade's skin crawl. "Time to come home." Connor's head turned sharply between Jade and the newcomer. Even without context, the tension in the room was unmistakable. Jade's face had gone white, her breathing shallow and quick. "I think you might be in the wrong place," Connor said calmly, but there was steel beneath his polite tone. Derek laughed, a sound that held no humor. "This doesn't concern you, suit." He took a step toward Jade. "Come on, Jade. We're leaving. Now." The moment hung suspended like a breath before a storm. Connor slowly stood up, his 6-foot frame suddenly seeming much larger. And Jade realized that after years of running, she was finally going to have to make a choice about whether to keep hiding or trust someone again. "The lady doesn't seem interested in leaving," Connor said, his voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that came from years of boardroom negotiations. But this wasn't about business. Something protective had awakened in him the moment he'd seen fear flash across Jade's face. Derek's laugh turned harsh. "The lady is my girlfriend, and she's coming home whether she wants to or not." His hand moved to his jacket, and Jade flinched at the familiar gesture. "No, I'm not." The words escaped Jade's lips before she could stop them. For the first time in months, she stood straighter. "I'm not your girlfriend anymore, Derek. I told you we were done." "You don't get to decide that," Derek snarled, taking another step forward. "Not after what you put me through." Connor positioned himself between them without seeming to move deliberately. "Actually, I'm pretty sure she does get to decide that." His phone was already in his hand. "Mrs. Patterson, would you mind calling Sheriff Williams? Tell him Connor Mitchell needs a favor." The mention of the sheriff made Derek pause, but only for a moment. "You think your money scares me? I know where she goes, where she works. You can't protect her forever." "Watch me," Connor replied simply. The word sent a chill through Jade, not of fear this time, but of something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. Mrs. Patterson was already on the phone, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Derek's face twisted with rage. "You have no idea what you're getting into, rich boy. She's not worth the trouble. Trust me. Don't talk about her like that." Connor's composure cracked slightly, revealing something fiercer underneath. "And don't mistake politeness for weakness." In that moment, Jade saw the boy she remembered. Connor had always stood up for the smaller kids on the playground, even when it meant trouble for himself. Time had changed him into someone powerful, successful, but that protective instinct remained exactly the same. "Derek, just leave." Jade's voice was stronger now. "Please. Just go." "This isn't over," Derek hissed, but the approaching sound of sirens made his decision for him. He shot one last venomous look at both of them before storming out into the night. Jade's knees nearly gave out as the tension left the room. Connor caught her elbow gently, steadying her. "Are you okay?" His concern was genuine, and when she looked into his eyes, she saw recognition dawning there too. "Connor," she whispered. Little Connor with the gap between his front teeth? Who used to draw pictures of rockets in the dirt. His face broke into the same crooked smile she remembered from 25 years ago. "Jade Carson. You still scrunch up your nose when you're thinking hard. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up." Sometimes the universe brings people back into our lives exactly when we need them most. "I can't believe it's really you," she breathed, and for the first time in months, tears came to her eyes not from fear, but from something much more powerful. But even as relief washed over her, one question remained. Could Connor really protect her from a man who'd already shown he'd stop at nothing to get her back? Sheriff Williams arrived within minutes, his weathered face grim as he took Jade's statement. Connor sat beside her, his presence steady and reassuring, but she could feel the weight of 25 years between them. How could she explain to her childhood friend that she'd become someone who attracted dangerous men, someone who had to run in the middle of the night? "He's been following me for months," Jade admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I got a restraining order in Oklahoma, but he doesn't care about pieces of paper." Sheriff Williams nodded knowingly. "Men like Derek Hutchins think laws don't apply to them. We've had run-ins before. But Miss Carson, staying in one place makes you an easy target." Connor leaned forward. What would it take to keep her safe? Honestly, distance. A new identity, maybe. Resources most folks don't have. The sheriff's eyes moved meaningfully to Connor. But even then, determined men find ways. After the sheriff left, the diner felt impossibly quiet. Mrs. Patterson had gone home, leaving Connor and Jade alone with the weight of their reunion and the shadow of Derek's threats. "I'm sorry," Jade said finally. "You came here for pie and got dragged into my mess." "Hey." Connor turned to face her fully. "Do you remember what I told you the last day before they moved you to the Hendersons?" Jade's eyes filled with tears. "You said we'd always be family, even if we couldn't be together." "I meant it then, and I mean it now." His voice was firm but gentle. "Family protects family." But even as warmth spread through her chest, reality crashed back. "Connor, You don't understand. Derek isn't just controlling, he's dangerous. He's hurt me before, and he's threatened to hurt anyone who helps me. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Connor reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. I run Mitchell Industries now. We have security, resources, safe houses. But more than that, you're not alone anymore. Jade stared at the card, her hands shaking. Why? After all these years, why would you risk everything for someone you barely remember? Connor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of old pain. Because I never forgot the girl who shared her crackers with me when I was too proud to admit I was hungry. Because you taught me that kindness mattered more than pride. And because... He paused, vulnerability flickering across his features. Because I've spent my whole life building walls to keep people out, and seeing you reminds me why I started looking for family in the first place. The honesty in his words broke something loose in Jade's chest. But before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, new boyfriend won't always be around. I'm watching. Sleep tight. Connor saw her face go pale. What is it? She showed him the phone with trembling hands. He's still out there. He's watching. Her voice cracked. I can't let him hurt you too. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments below. But Connor was already standing, his expression hardening with determination. Then it's time Derek learned what happens when someone threatens my family. The quiet boy from foster care was gone. In his place stood a man who'd built an empire, and he was about to use every resource at his disposal. Connor made 3 phone calls that changed everything. The first was to his head of security, a former FBI agent named Patricia who specialized in stalking cases. The second was to his legal team, who began filing motions within the hour. The third was to a private investigator who'd been tracking Derek's movements since he'd left the diner. He's staying at the roadside motel, Connor told Jade as dawn broke over Murphy's diner. They'd spent the night in the back booth, talking and planning. Room 237. He's got a rental car and at least 2 weapons we can confirm. Jade's stomach twisted. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You're getting involved in something that could destroy everything you've built. Jade, look at me. Connor's voice was steady, but his eyes blazed with determination. I spent 15 years in foster care after my parents died. Know what I learned? Running doesn't solve anything. It just delays the inevitable. The bell above the door chimed, and Patricia walked in, a compact woman with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. Behind her came 2 other members of Connor's security team. Mr. Mitchell, Patricia said briskly, we've been monitoring Mr. Hutchins' communications. He's made contact with at least 3 other individuals with violent histories. This isn't just stalking anymore, it's escalating to conspiracy. Connor's jaw tightened. What's the plan? We have enough evidence for federal charges now. Crossing state lines, electronic harassment, conspiracy to commit assault. The FBI is moving in within the hour. Jade felt dizzy. This is really happening. More than that, Patricia continued. We've uncovered a pattern. Derek's done this before, to at least 2 other women. One's in witness protection. The other. She paused meaningfully. Let's just say she didn't get the help she needed in time. The weight of those words settled over them. Jade wasn't just saving herself, she was potentially saving other women from the same fate. Connor took her hands. You don't have to face him. Patricia's team will handle everything. But if you want to make sure he can never do this again, to you or anyone else, we need you to testify. For months, Jade had been running, hiding, making herself smaller and smaller, hoping Derek would lose interest. But sitting there, surrounded by people who believed her, who were fighting for her, she felt something she'd almost forgotten, her own strength. I'll do it, she said quietly. Then, louder, I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. 2 hours later, they watched from Connor's car as FBI agents led Derek away in handcuffs. The man who'd terrorized her for months looked small and pathetic, surrounded by federal agents. "Is it really over?" Jade whispered. "The legal part will take time," Patricia answered from the front seat. "But yes. With the evidence we have, and the testimony from his other victims who are now willing to come forward, Derek Hutchins won't be threatening anyone for a very long time." If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales like this one. Connor squeezed Jade's hand. "You did it. You faced him and won." But even as relief washed over her, one question remained. After years of running, how did someone learn to build a life again? And could the friendship that had sustained them as children grow into something deeper as adults? 6 months later, Jade stood in the sunlit office of the Carson Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to helping domestic violence survivors. The nameplate on her desk read, "Jade Carson, Executive Director," and every morning when she saw it, she still felt a little surprised by how far she'd come. Connor appeared in her doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the same crooked smile that had comforted her in foster care. "How's the new shelter program coming along?" 15 women housed this month, Jade said, accepting the coffee gratefully. 3 job placements, and Patricia's security firm is training their first class of volunteers. She paused, still amazed by the life they'd built together. "Connor, sometimes I can't believe this is real." "What?" "That my foundation gave a grant to the most qualified candidate we interviewed." He settled into the chair across from her desk, but his eyes were warm with affection. "Though I'll admit, the board was impressed when you turned down my dinner invitation until after the funding was approved." Jade laughed. "I had to maintain some professional standards. Besides, I needed time to figure out who I was when I wasn't running anymore." Derek's trial had ended 3 months ago with a 15-year federal sentence. The other victims who'd found the courage to testify had thanked Jade afterward, saying her bravery had given them hope. But perhaps the most healing moment had come when Derek's own sister had approached Jade in the courthouse hallway. "I'm sorry," the woman had whispered. "I knew he was dangerous, but I was scared too. Thank you for stopping him." That conversation had crystallized something for Jade. Her experience, as painful as it had been, was now helping other people break free from their own cycles of fear and silence. "Mrs. Patterson called this morning," Connor said, pulling Jade back to the present. "Murphy's Diner wants to host our annual fundraiser. She says it's only fitting, since that's where the magic happened." "The magic?" Jade repeated, shaking her head. "Is that what we're calling it?" "Well, what would you call it when 2 people find each other again after 25 years, just when they both need it most?" Jade looked out the window at the small garden behind their building, where clients often sat to process their healing. A young woman was there now with her daughter, both of them laughing at something on the playground. It was the kind of laughter Jade had thought she'd never hear again, certainly never make again. "I'd call it coming home," she said softly. Connor moved around the desk and took her hand, the same way he had that night in the diner. "I never stopped looking for you, you know. All those years, every foster kid I met, every charity I funded, part of me was hoping I'd find you again. And I never stopped believing that somewhere, someone remembered the girl I used to be before life got complicated." When Connor kissed her, it tasted like hope and apple pie and second chances. It tasted like home. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Sometimes the most beautiful journeys begin with the courage to trust again, and sometimes the family we lose finds a way back to us when we need them most. Thank you for sharing this journey with us.